1 point with Arnold Gamboa. 1 point with Arnold Gamboa.
Welcome, 1 Point family, and thank you for joining me today. This is 1 Point Live, and this is a segment dito sa channel natin na 1 Point with Kuya Arnold. And by the way, this is Kuya Arnold Gamboa. For most of you who are watching, this is Kuya Arnold, and you know me by that name. Thank you for joining me today. And if you are just dropping by, and this is your first time to drop by, welcome. And I hope that you will be clicking that like button and subscribe if you like the content that we are sharing every Tuesday and Friday. I'd appreciate if you're going to like that content, like that button. But of course, if you are watching this on replay, I'm going to, after this broadcast, I'm going to summarize it with timestamps. So all you need to do is just to skip through the timestamp, and you can skip all through everything that we're talking about before the main topic. So that's it. But if you are watching here live, thank you for joining me again. Thank you for being with me today. Thank you, Ate Ruth, for being here, of course, as always. Thank you for joining me this afternoon. Again, if you are watching today live, just let me know. Just place in your comments and in our reactions box, so that I'll be able to recognize you and at least flash your name on screen and your comment, because this is a conversation about faith, hope, and love. We're doing some discussions about all those things. And so since this is a conversation, I want to also hear about your thoughts sa mga discussions natin, sa mga topics na gusto nating i-discuss dito sa 1 Point with Kuya Arnold. And so today we're going to talk about two quick topics. Normally we're going to try to do this for just 30-40 minutes max tops. And we're going to talk about two things today. We're going to talk about how God responds to our suffering. And I know some of us are suffering, some of us are having some trials, problems in life, health issues, and we're going to try to talk about that today. And of course, after that, I'm going to also talk about some suggestions, because there are some vaccine hesitancy that's going on here in the Philippines, and it's a big issue, big problem. And while some people's reasons are legitimate, generally speaking, what we all want to have is to vaccinate as much as possible, as many people as possible, so that we can go back to our normal lives. And we're going to try to discuss that and help out in our we can help out in the vaccine drive ng ating government. All right, so let's make sure that you click subscribe. Muna, let's try to click subscribe, and click that notification bell, so that you will be notified when I start a live stream or I post a new video. That way we want to push this video to as many people as possible. We want to build a larger community as than what we currently have right now. And so with your likes and with your subscribe, we could be able to help reach more people, because medyo tricky ang YouTube algorithm. When there's a video that is interesting for a lot of people, it can be determined only by YouTube if you are going to be liking the video. And so if you haven't liked the video yet, this live stream, it will just take you a few seconds. Click that like button, and we're going to get started in a little while. All right?
1 point, 1 point, 1 point, 1 point with Arnold Gamboa.
Yesterday, I posted a quick verse in the Bible. Normally, I post some things in my Facebook channel, Facebook page. If there's something that blesses me throughout the day, throughout my reading of the Bible, I would normally post it and provide some, hopefully, encouragement sa mga nakasubscribe sa akin. And so yesterday, I posted this on my on my Facebook channel. It says, and it is a Tagalog, it's a Filipino verse. And ito yung sa Hebrews chapter 4 verse 16. Sabi dito, kaya't huwag tayong mag-atubiling lumapit sa trono ng mahabaging Diyos upang makamtan natin ang habag at kalinga sa panahon ng ating pangangailangan. If you're wondering what the English translation of that verse is, this is it, no? Sabi dito sa Hebrews chapter 4 verse 16, let us then approach God's throne of grace with confidence so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. And so the verse basically saying that we can, with confidence, yung may lakas ng loob, alam natin na when we approach God, we are going to receive mercy, we are going to receive grace whenever we're having some problems in our time of need. God will be there for us. We will receive help. Now, interesting though, I have a friend, and he's a kuya. He's a lot older than me. He's a friend of mine. Back in the early 2000s, we met in the past, but he's now in the States, and he is can be considered as, say, an agnostic, or maybe right now, I don't know, I haven't asked him, maybe he turned from being a Christian to become an atheist. And this is what he said. He asked the question doon sa mismong Facebook post ko. Sabi niya, could we recite this verse to the millions of COVID victims and their loved ones? Now, knowing where he's coming from, I know what he wants to say. He probably was saying that people are dying, people are suffering, and especially now that we are in a pandemic, we know that a lot of people have been or has suffered in the past, or maybe not just suffered but died due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Maybe their parents died, maybe their loved ones died because of the pandemic. And what he's asking is, can you actually tell them to come to God and ask for mercy, ask for grace when they actually suffer, their loved ones died, and they themselves, some of them who ask for God's mercy and help, died? Can you, with honesty, with an honest heart, seek God's mercy and help when you are in time of trouble? Yun ang pinanggagalingan nung kaibigan ko nito sa Facebook. He's a real guy, he's not just a Facebook friend. He's a friend of mine. I know him personally, and I understand where he's coming from. And that's a legitimate question, and I don't want to just brush it away. I answered the question. I'd like to share with you what I told him in that particular post. And you see, Jesus himself, and I'd like to qualify what we normally think when we ask God for help and mercy. When we ask God for grace and mercy, what we almost always think about is that God will do exactly what we ask Him to do for us. Okay? when we ask for grace, when we ask for mercy, when we don't want to be we want to say, in the case of COVID-19 patients, we want obviously to be healed from this disease. We want to recover, and if you are someone who has a parent, a loved one, a sibling that has COVID-19, has contracted COVID-19, you obviously want him to heal, and we want to ask God, and we ask God, we approach God to ask Him to heal our parents, our siblings, our loved ones. And that's good. That's a good thing. If I'm a father, I want my kids to come to me and tell me exactly what they have in their hearts. I want them to come to me. Nonetheless, I also have the better option for them. And sometimes the better option is not that thing that they're asking me, right? Now, when we ask for God's mercy, we thought that the only legitimate answer from God is that when we ask Him for something, He will give what we have asked for. And if we don't receive exactly what we have asked for, if we don't receive it, then God is not faithful. Then God is lying when He asks us to come to Him boldly. But that's not the case. That's not the case. In fact, Jesus Himself promised something. He didn't promise that we're not going to have troubles in life. He promised, in fact, that while we are here on earth, we are going to have problems in life. This is what He said sa John chapter 16 verse 33. John chapter 16 verse 33. Sabi dito, I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. Tingnan niyo na, in me, in Jesus, you will have peace. In this world, you will have trouble. It's a promise. The reason why God says this, or Jesus said this, is because He knows that we will be in the middle of a sinful world. We'll be in the middle of a sin-sick world. People will sin against us. We will sin against nature. We will sin against God. And that means we are going to have trouble in this world. We are not going to go through life without any problems. We are not going to go through life without any problems with our health. That also means that in the midst of pandemic, there's a possibility that even if you are a follower of Jesus, there's a great possibility that you will also contract COVID-19. Because Jesus Himself said that in this world, you will have trouble. But there's one thing that He also promised. And one thing that He desired for us to know, so that we will have a perspective in life. Sabi niya, He continued, He said, take heart. Even if you're going to have some problems in life, you will have some sacrifices in life. He said, take heart. I have overcome the world. He has suffered Himself. He is the one who first and foremost has undergone through everything, and He has overcome everything. He has overcome everything. And that's the reason why, yung context kasi ng Hebrews 4 na tinext ko, na pinost ko, sabi dito nga, let us approach God. Therefore, let's approach God with confidence. Bakit natin kailangang i-approach ang Diyos with confidence? Paano natin, and what is the reason why we can do that? Not dito sa verse 15. Sabi dito, for we do not have a high priest, that is Jesus Christ, who is unable to empathize with our weaknesses. But we have one who has been tempted in every way, just as we are, yet He did not sin. The context is that Jesus Himself, He is our he is our high priest. Now, we don't have time to talk about what a high priest means, but basically what the verse is saying is that Jesus knows what we're going through. He has undergone through everything that we have undergone through. He was tempted and did not sin, and he knows that we are also being tempted in a lot of ways. We can also expand that to say that he also suffered a lot. When he died on the cross, he was also betrayed by his friends, just like sometimes we are also betrayed by our friends. He died on the cross, he suffered on the cross, and you know, the reality is that we may also suffer here on earth with our health. No, some have contracted the disease, some the COVID-19 disease, some have cancers, some I have a friend recently. I just I I just learned that he died. I don't even know how and why he died, but you know, he was suffering for a little while, and then we just realized that he died. And he is a follower of Jesus, and I'm sure he was praying that he will be healed from his disease, but God did not heed into his request. But what the verse was actually saying is that while we're undergoing through these things, while we are suffering, this is what Jesus says to be what peace is all about. That we are, when we are suffering, Jesus knows that we are also and has experienced the sufferings, and he can empathize with us. He knows what we're undergoing through, and he is with us in the middle of our troubles, in the middle of everything that we are doing, in the middle of everything that causes us to suffer. And that's the reason why, sabi ng verse, we can boldly come to him. We can boldly tell him, Jesus, I'm suffering right now. Lord, I'm suffering. Please help me. Lord, I want to be healed from this disease. Lord, I want to pay off my debts. Lord, I am heartbroken by the betrayal of my friend, or a betrayal of my loved one, my spouse. You can tell God that. You can tell Jesus that, because he can empathize with you. That's what the verse is saying. And that's the reason why here's our one point for today. Ang one point natin is this. Jesus said that we will have peace because he has overcome the world. And this is the essence of peace. Peace is not the absence of suffering. Peace is the presence of God in the middle of your suffering. Peace is not, you know, of course we want to have the absence of suffering. That's what our hearts desires. But even if we are in the middle of our suffering, if God is there in the middle of our suffering, that's what you call peace that passes all human understanding. Where and how that presence of God be manifested in the middle of our sufferings? It could be in the presence of some of our friends consoling us. When we have problems with our finances, you see how God will work for us in the middle of that financial crisis. No? And there are times that God will, if God wants us to be healed from our disease, he is most powerful, and he can do that. We can be healed from our disease. And we can trust that God knows what's best for us. So in the middle of our sufferings, in the middle of trials, in the middle of temptations, in the middle of things that we cannot explain, if God is still in the middle of all those things, we can boldly come to him and ask him to give us mercy and grace. Right? That's the power of someone who, like Jesus, our high priest. Jesus, as someone who knows exactly what we're undergoing through, he can empathize with us, and that's the reason why we can come to him and be bold and be uh, and do exactly what we are told to do when God says come to Him, especially if you are suffering right now. So if there's anything that's happening in your life right now, just come to Him, because He knows what you've undergoing through. He has undergone what you've undergoing through right now, and He knows what's best for you.
1 point, 1 point, 1 point, 1 point with Arnold Gamboa.
We are, sa second segment natin ngayon, we are going to be talking about the vaccine hesitancy. Vaccine hesitancy. Sino na ba nakapagpa-vaccinate dito sa atin? Kung may vaccine na available, ha? Sa municipality nyo. But you see, the thing is that I realized there's what we call a vaccine hesitancy problem here in the Philippines right now. There is a survey that was conducted before, and the survey says that only 30% of Filipinos are willing to be vaccinated. And there's a lot of different things, different reasons why people just want to be vaccinated. And some of them are legitimate reasons, some of them are not legitimate reasons. I've talked a lot about this thing, yung mga legitimate and illegitimate reasons, dun sa isang episode. You can go back, and I could probably link it later on. I can link it later so that you can go back and see. But there's there are some people who may have a valid reason, but majority of the time, majority of us needs to be vaccinated. 70% of the population needs to be vaccinated. And that's the only reason, that's the only way for us to beat this pandemic. We need to do this as a community. We need to do this as a community. Kasi if we don't do this, new strains will come out of this. If we will not be vaccinating the population, the mutations of the virus will outrun us. Ito yung sinabi sa isang article sa CNN I read a while ago. Sabi dito, but the spread of coronavirus is outpacing vaccinations, the World Health Organization said. And the longer coronavirus spreads among unvaccinated people, the more opportunities it has to mutate into more troubling variants. Recently, there's a news about the Delta variant. Sabi nila itong Delta variant, it is more, ano ba tawag nila doon? It's definitely more troublesome compared to the original Wuhan COVID-19 variant. And I'm not qualified to talk about how variants were created through this virus. You can check other YouTube explanations about this, YouTube videos. But basically what's happening is that there's another variant that's going on right now that's more troublesome, and it's now the one that is apparent that was first seen in India, and it's now in the US, and it's now wreaking havoc in Indonesia, and right now here in the Philippines, sabi ng ating Department of Health, wala pa raw pumapasok. So praise God for that. Sana wala talagang makapasok sa atin na Delta variant. But the thing is this, if we don't vaccinate the population as fast as we can, the variants will create some more other variants. I mean, the virus will create some more other variants, and then this problem will continue to go on and on and on. Paulit-ulit na lang yan. Hindi na natin yan masusolusyonan. And so, here in the Philippines, while some have legitimate reasons why they don't want to get vaccinated, there are also a lot of us are just hesitant to be vaccinated. And I have 3 suggestions to help us encourage people to get vaccinated. Right? 3 reasons, 3 suggestions for me to for us to have this vaccination, or to encourage our people to get vaccinated. All right, so let's quickly go through these suggestions. Number one is for let's try to have what I call a reward system. Okay, reward system. For instance, a lot of us, we want to go back to our normal lives. We want to watch movies. We want to eat with our friends outside without our masks, without the, without people looking around, and then even some restaurants would require you to go to eat outside al fresco. But some of us wants to start going back to our offices. You want to start attending conferences. You want to start watching NBA, sorry, not NBA, PBA over at Araneta Coliseum. I love doing that during or pre COVID-19 with my son, Johan. We would normally go to a Ginebra game, and we can't do that, and even the PBA has not started its conference or its season yet here today. I mean this year, because of the pandemic problem. Now, if people will get vaccinated, and we can have what we call a reward system. How about allowing people to congregate, allowing people to watch movies, allow people to, to have very limited limitations. They can move around. They can go to Palawan, to Boracay, and have their vacations without going through the normal process, like being tested. No, if you have the vaccine card, right? If you have the vaccine card, just have the privilege of and be rewarded. I'm sure people will think about getting vaccinated, because every one of us, not one here in the world, in the Philippines, would say that I love what we have right now. Not one of us will say that. We all want to go back to our normal lives. And so for you to be able to perform your normal life, you need to be vaccinated. And some would say, I don't want to get vaccinated. Fine, that's your choice. And of course, we don't want you to spread the virus if you go to a populated place, a congregated situation. We don't want you to contract the virus. We don't want you to pass on the virus. And so you can stay at home, and that's fine. That's your deal, no? And that's you can always choose not to get vaccinated. But if people will know that there's a reward for you when you get vaccinated, I'm sure a lot of people will try to get vaccinated. In fact, there's something's going on right now. I don't know why the government is not advertising this. Kasi marami ng ngayon mga establishments, mga nagpapamigay ng free Jollibee, free McDonald's. There's a website, there's a Rappler article that outlines all the establishments that gives away free something when you get vaccinated. And that's a reward system. You can just go, and I hope that more establishments will also reward people for getting the vaccinations. So that's number one. I hope that the government will implement this. I hope that there's going to be a rule that will say that if you get vaccinated, you can do these things, and these things. And if you're not yet vaccinated, you can't do all of these other things. Or there's going to be a more stringent process for you to be able to do certain things. And that's a reward system that every one of us wants to get into if you are vaccinated. And that, of course, will encourage people to get vaccinated. Number two, here's my next suggestion. Number two is for an efficient LGU vaccination process. Ano ibig sabihin nito? Now, I've observed that in several LGUs, some LGUs, they are able to vaccinate the population in a more efficient way, no? In the faster, less taxing way, 30 minutes, 20 minutes, they were able to do that. But there are some LGUs that are hampered by wrong processes. Diba? Parang hindi efficient yung process nila, and some people will go and fall in line sa vaccination centers for 4, 5, 6 hours just to get vaccinated. And nothing can discourage you to get vaccinated than to not get vaccinated. Sorry, nothing can discourage you more than spending a whole day of your life and sweating it out outside to get the vaccine. This free vaccine should be able to be dispensed out there in a faster process. Wala na dapat masyadong magulong process. At the same time, of course, kailangan din ng mga manpower ng LGUs. Sana lang merong standard way of doing this. Kasi ang na-observe ko, different LGUs have, when I say LGU, ito yung mga Pasig City, Quezon City, di ba? Different LGUs, they have different ways of doing things. If there will be some processes, no, that can be established for na standard na process for everyone to follow, and then that standard process will be the one to be used, no? I'm sure mape-perfect din to, maghahaba yung dadami yung mga tao na gustong mag-vaccinate. So I hope that the national government will coordinate with all the LGUs so that the LGUs will be able to have a refined processing. Imagine niyo kung halimbawa ang mga tao magka-vaccinate, dadaan lang sila 10 minutes, 20 minutes tapos ng vaccination nila. Everyone will be encouraged to get their vaccine. Kung pipila ka ng 5 hours, 6 hours, alam mo, pipila ka, wag na lang. Di ba? Yun ang isipin ng ibang mga tao. And so, sana maging maganda yung processes ng mga LGUs. And lastly, ito. Sana, the government, please, don't drop the ball. Government, national government, sana, please. Ito yung mga bagay na, there are times that you can say that in life, you can say that you can live your life without really depending on the government. There are times in your life na sabi mo, wala akong pakialam sa debate niyo sa politika diyan, bahala kayo. Merong mga ganun di ba? Merong mga pwedeng sa buhay niyo okay lang na walang gobyerno, walang problema 'yan. Itong pandemic, dito lang sa pandemic, some of you, including myself, in fact, myself, I feel helpless when I see the government failing. Kasi wala akong magagawa, itong vaccination process natin, yung pag-open ng mga bagong ng buhay natin, everything comes from the government. And if they drop the ball, if they fail, every one of us suffers. For instance, when we are starting to procure vaccines, ito, totoo na to. Ano ba tawag natin dito? May tawag dito Wag na lang yung tawag nito. Baka mabatikos pa ako sa politika. Anyway, let's go back to the topic. Nung nag-umpisa tayo na mag-procure ng vaccines, sabi ng government, someone dropped the ball, meaning someone failed to acquire yung Pfizer at Moderna vaccines. Pfizer and Moderna, they are US based vaccine na alam naman natin sa ngayon, no? Pfizer and Moderna. And also there's somehow like a preference for a Chinese made vaccine, yung Sinovac. And so majority of our someone dropped the ball, hindi tayo naka-procure nung Pfizer tsaka ng Moderna vaccine at the earliest possible time. At ang binigay sa atin sa Pilipinas, ang ginagamit natin ngayong karamihan ay Sinovac. It turned out that according to a lot of people, the reason why they don't want to get vaccinated is that they don't trust Sinovac. Mas mababa ang efficacy ng Sinovac kaysa sa Pfizer and Moderna. Only if only we have Pfizer and Moderna and or AstraZeneca, if only we have those vaccines, there might be a high rate of people who would want to get vaccinated. Marami sanang gusto mag-vaccinate, pero hindi nasa Sinovac tayo. Now, it was proven to be correct. Yung hesitancy na yon, it was proven to be correct. Kasi, may mga lumalabas ngayon na ang Sinovac is less effective, or Pfizer and Moderna are more effective in fighting all other variants, including the more notorious Delta variant. Okay? In fact, some countries like Singapore, ito yung bagong news lang ngayon eh. Merong bagong news ngayon. Singapore, sabi nila, meron kasing ang kanilang government, ang official na ginagamit nila ay Pfizer and Moderna. But there are some people in their in the country opted for Sinovac. Sabi dito, Singapore withholds privileges from people with Sinovac shots. So that means because you are getting a Sinovac shot, you are not going to get the same privileges as those people who have received the Pfizer and Moderna shots. Okay? So may discrimination. And there's a reason for the discrimination, because Sinovac has, according to them, less efficacy than those two things. And so my hope is that our government will get their acts together, right? And this is one of those moments in our lifetime, at least in my lifetime, that we are so dependent in the efficiency of the government. Pag pumalpak ang government, palpak ang buong sistema natin, palpak ang buhay natin, because we wouldn't be able to go back to our normal life. So I hope that these three things, number one, reward system, number two, LGU processes, sana mas mabilis yung vaccination, 20 minutes may vaccine ka na, and lastly, if we could have the more efficient way the government can vaccinate us, procure the more efficient vaccines like Pfizer and Moderna. If we could also have that flooding the LGUs, I know a lot of people will want to get vaccinated. And if that happens, if more people will want to get vaccinated, and of course, kung merong vaccine, okay? Kung merong available na vaccine, of course, if people will want to get vaccinated, sooner than later, we'll get our lives back. And this pandemic, from at least from our community perspective, from the Philippine perspective, will soon end. And I hope that I have a very small following, but I hope this people will try to, for those of you who will watch this video, I hope that you'll be able to consider these suggestions, so that we'll be able to solve this problem sooner than later.
1 point with Arnold Gamboa.
Thank you guys for being here today. Thank you, Chad, for dropping by. My brother is here with us today. And of course, I don't know who else are with me live. But if you're watching this, watching this on replay, thank you for watching uh, um, this 1 point live. And we're going to have 1 point on Tuesday once again, and I might have I might have someone to jump in and join me as my guest next week, either Tuesday or Friday. So thank you guys for being with me today, and I hope that you're blessed by our conversation this afternoon.
1 point, 1 point, 1 point, 1 point with Arnold Gamboa.